Now, did you know how to fly before you got connected with Forrest?
Actually, I started taking flying lessons before I had met Forrest, so it's like another great match. I was traveling traveling many hours, thousands of miles a year. In fact, my children would travel with me, many times. And I was looking at some of the Delta pilots, and I thought some of them are so small. And if they can do that, and they're not these huge guys that are really, muscular, they're average, good health and stuff. If they can do that, then I can do that too. So I started taking flying lessons many years ago, yes.
So you've done a lot of flying with Forrest then?
I do a lot of flying with Forrest. And Forrest, he's not only an incredible scientist and inventor and individual, he's one of the best pilots. I'd rather be with him at 88 years old than any other person.
There's old 88 and young 88, so.
Oh, there are so many, I think, older men at the age of 40 and 50, and Forrest is absolutely one of the youngest people I've ever met. He loves the challenges. He loves life. He loves life itself. What he does sometimes, we're flying because with over 20 different aircraft, he wants me to be able to land. In case something happens, to him or to anybody else, to be able to land a plane, to know how to fly. And so what he'll do sometimes is turn off the engines in the air. Land. So I better know how to land that aircraft. And you study it as a pilot would. Your engines are off, you're in the mountains. What are you going to do? And what's your next step? And so when I'll figure out an immediate landing, for a safe landing, when I'm almost touching down, then we'll go ahead and go off and continue.
Now, they say that the infant mortality rate drops from a big number to a little tiny number because of Forrest. And he's a humble guy about that kind of stuff, isn't he?
Yes. Forrest he's extremely humble. He always gives credit to other people. It's one of his great traits. He is extremely humble. For the mortality rate, for example, for the baby bird, it dropped from about 70% of the premature babies before the baby bird had died. Now, worldwide, less than 10%, and it's probably even brought down a lot more. And I remember when I was running the Innovation Center and working with inventors, I was always fighting for inventors and inventors' rights, because a lot of people don't want to work with inventors. They're wild, crazy, the gray-headed old man, that some of the typical, pictures and thoughts that you would hear. But I look at it like I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with some of the greatest inventors and greatest people who can make a difference. Because see, inventors, they not only create jobs, they create industries. When I look at Forrest and many of the other people, for example, in the National Inventors Hall of Fame, or other inventors who aren't there, to see they might have created something small, but how it's changed history, how it's changed our world. And specifically when I look at the medical ventilator, the medical respirator, I'll say, what would you do if you didn't have that? We wouldn't have our open heart surgeries. We wouldn't have pacemakers. We wouldn't have so much of the technology, so much of the industry. You wouldn't have the respiratory industry on how one person can change the world and leave their footprint on mankind. But yes, Forrest truly, truly is humble in all ways, in all single ways.
Now, how did this museum come about?
The museum came about, Forrest and I had talked about building a museum. I think our visions at first were a little bit different. You have to stop this. Did he tell you about this? Okay.
He said he thought it was a little different. He didn't go into it.
Okay. No, our visions were a little bit different. I think that he had the vision with the museum of having a typical hangar with aircraft. But my vision was a little bit different, because not only is he great in aviation, I think his number one love is aviation. I know his number one love is aviation. Number two is medicine. Okay, but because of the background that I've come from and the meshing of two people, one in aviation and innovation, and one in innovation, tech transfer, etc., that the vision was to take it beyond him and to open up our hearts to the community, to make something good because of all the negative things that are going on in the world. For example, bin Laden did, the terrorist situation with bin Laden happened on 9/11. Well, I want to counterbalance good with evil, so everybody's always going to remember 9/11. So we pick 777. A, it's very biblical. B, it's a great aircraft. The 777 is a great aircraft. And 3, it's just lucky. So we opened the museum on a Saturday, which was July 7th, 2007. The weeks before that, yes, the visions were different, but we took it from just the idea of having a hangar into, for a museum, into a place with a heart, with the community support that would teach children and people would want to be a part of it. Forrest and I were so concerned about the youth and to going into math and science, because I think one of my quotes is, "He who has the technology wins." And science is so important, the basic raw science of discovery. And our economies are changing so fast, and Forrest and I want the best for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come.
He didn't say his first love was aviation or medicine. He said it was Pam.
Oh, great.
So you guys are a pretty good team.
We have fun. One of the things is we have fun together. We are together most of the time 22 hours a day. And it's wonderful. I just look, and Forrest and I have conversations about this, and we say, gosh, I don't think that most couples are as happy as we are. There is no age difference, because people always ask, there's like a 36-year age difference between us, and people will ask me some questions, they'll ask him questions. I think they ask me more questions, though. And I don't see an age difference. There's not that. Not when you could be that tied intellectually to a person, and we balance each other out. I always say to Forrest, we laugh, and I'll say, he's the smart one, I'm the sweet one. God sent me to him to balance him out, because he's 10 times more perfect than I'll ever be. If you look at his side of the room, in our office, it's all like perfect. And on my side, it's all not so perfect, but I know where everything is, so it doesn't matter.
So he encourages you, and you encourage him.
We both love life. We encourage each other, and it's a passion, it's a vision, and it's having fun. And I think, if we're not going to have fun, we're not going to do it. And people always ask me, how do I pick my clients? Because I've worked in the industry for a long time, for many, many years, and I've never looked for clients. And they'll say, Pam, how do you pick your clients? There's so many different inventors, and my phones ring off the hook, and I'll say, by how much fun I'm going to have. If I'm not going to have fun, I'm not going to do it. And it's not to the point of being snobby or anything like that. It's to understand that with something that you're so passionate about and believe in, like Forrest, there's no hours. I'll work and travel and do what it takes and cross the boundaries of the world in trying to make something happen.
If you're going to describe Forrest in just a couple words, what words would you choose?
Brilliant and honest.
How do you think he's going to be remembered?
I think he'll be remembered as one of our national heroes, one of our national treasures. His love for his country. Forrest has served in 3 wars. He doesn't ask for anything. And when he passes on, when I think about it, when he passes on, our country will truly have lost a national treasure, because they don't come like him. They don't come like him, who is so humble, who works so hard, who doesn't expect anything but wanting to give back. When Forrest fights or argues, he argues with himself as to why couldn't I do better? Why can't I figure that out? Why can't I do better? It's not about the other people. He's the first critic of himself. So.
The Aviators seem like they're like a fraternity. They have a common language between each other. And when he has Aviators come by to say hi, does he get joyful with that?
Oh, he loves it. He loves aviation. He loves to talk to the pilots, to be with the pilots, to fly with the pilots. He loves it. Forrest can tell you anything about a plane. He can tell you basically the what type of plane when we're walking along on the sidewalk or walking along at the ranch by the sound of the engine. He's incredible. And even on the big aircraft, you see anybody who's like under 88, sometimes they'll call them son. And when we're flying on, some of the large commercial aircrafts, if he hears something, and he truly will know the different components and parts and structures, and he'll say as we're leaving, son, you need to squawk something. Whatever it is on that aircraft that's wrong, he will let them know that. And it's most of the time not a seat. It's something else.
Now, one of your goals really is that as kids, there's so many kids were here yesterday, and I saw him interact with kids. He likes kids, and the idea of helping inspire them. Is that right?
Yes, Forrest loves children. What's amazing to me, at his age, he's so animated. He loves the kids. He has fun with the kids, and how he can talk with them, not to them, but with them on any level. Whether it's a kindergartner asking him questions about basic, flight or flying, or the most sophisticated scientist in aviation. But as far as children, that's where his heart is, that's where his legacy is.
Can you talk about his integrity and values?
I don't know of anybody who has more serious values of honesty and values of integrity. They just don't make people that way. It's not talking about men. He's one of a kind. I'm sure there's other people out there that have the same values, but you'll meet them far and few between.
Now, they say the character comes out during tough times versus easygoing times. And life's not all roses. Can you talk about his character?
His character. When Forrest gets disappointed, most of the time it's not at other people. He will challenge himself first. He will beat himself up first versus other people. So sometimes he gets aggravated, and sometimes he gets, disappointed. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day, he'll say, what did I do wrong? How could I have done better? How should I, what should I do?
What motivates him?
Life. He loves life. And the quest for learning more, the quest for knowledge, the quest for information, the quest for making a difference to better mankind, for better results.
Now, most guys at his age are like sitting around just home watching TV and retired. How come? What's different about Forrest?
I think a lot of it has to do with his diet, his exercise. For example, there's no salt, or very, very little salt. There's no MSG. He watches his diet very carefully, and I think he has most of his life. Most of the food that we eat here is homegrown on the ranch, from the beef that are grain-fed beef to the fruits and vegetables. And in fact, Forrest and I, together, we make about 300 jars of jelly per year. Forrest and I make the jelly. We give it to family and friends and to visitors who come in for the medical seminars. And we make over 100 jars of salsa. We make raspberry and peach and Bing cherry and blueberry and mint and Italian plum jellies.
Now, he seems like he has a variety of different kinds of friends. So when you get everybody together, it's like last night, different kinds of people that you are able to bring together. Mm-hmm. Is that common?
Oh, that's common. At our dinner table, we have the family and friends and many people come in and out. A lot of people we'll never see again. We'll probably talk to, but our place is a home which we open our are home in our hearts at the same time. So the conversations at our dinner table, I don't think are like other people's sometimes dinner table, because they're about the future and changes and learning and the quest. Some people talk about people, we talk about things and changing and positive things.
See, he's an optimistic type person.
Forrest is he's very, very optimistic. Yeah, he's very optimistic.
What's your goals for the next 5 years?
For the next 5 years, my goals are to, well, I got to think about that. I think my overall goal is to, at 88 years old, I look at it and I say to keep him as young and as healthy as anybody could possibly be, to understand that that I'm to carry on help carry on a legacy, to teach, to nurture, to involve, to work with this generation and future generations to come. Part of it is a legacy, part of it is to have the zest to go on, as I've always been so interested in math, science, the sciences, the technology, and to educate. And we figure even if we can only educate one child that has come through this museum, to make a difference in one child's life, to have them put their footprint on mankind, then for every dollar, for every hour, for every amount of work that we've ever put into it, is absolutely worth it.
Now, when he was a kid, he said he was a real loner, but over the years he's got a lot of friends.
Yes, Forrest, we have a lot of friends. He's still a loner in a lot of ways, because there's difference between the public and then the private person. Forrest is he's a very private person. On one hand, he'll say his life is open, his book is open, he has nothing to hide. And so if you ask him something, he'll tell you something and be very honest. It doesn't matter what the question is, he will tell you whatever, what he thinks. His life is an open book, but at the same time to have the opportunity to know what makes him work, what's really important, and where is his mind, his body, and his spirit at the end of the day.
Now, he said he's been keeping a diary for his whole life, or?
Oh yeah, Forrest has kept a diary from when he was in high school. Every single day he has this little notebook and he writes the important things that have gone on during that day. So his diaries are extremely important, and at the same time he gets the big yellow pads of paper. Every day before he goes to sleep, he's going to write all the things he's going to have to do the next day. And sometimes it's a full page, and sometimes it's on to the next page. Then he goes out one by one, like a checklist on an aircraft, and he does what's on the yellow page, and then he comes back and he checks it off and goes to the next thing, until before he goes to sleep, his yellow pad is checked off, no matter how many pages it will be.
Do you have a nickname for him?
One that I'm not going to tell you.
The last thing, we're going to send you the copies of all these on DVD.
Okay.
Sometimes nice to put a little surprise at the end. Why don't you give a personal message to Forrest right there? We'll stick it as the end of the DVD.
Wait, let me think about this. Okay.
Go ahead.
Forrest, I am your wife, and I've met a lot of different people, but I've never met anybody so intriguing, so much fun, and truly brilliant and honest as that you are. And I just want to say that I'm your best friend, will always be there for you, will always laugh with you, will sometimes cry with you, and will be there through everything as we walk the walks in life. Through the thick and the thin, we laugh together and we walk that journey, and we have such a common vision and a passion with the same goals as you know, and I love you.